welcome back to another live with InfoSec Pat. In today's episode or today's video, whatever you want to call it, we're going to be talking about like how to become a network engineer. It's a little different than we normally talk about cyber and all that stuff. So I have a special guest that I actually studied CCIE stuff with him and many other topics. And yeah, so hopefully this will be a fun time. You can throw some questions in the chat, and if it's after the live, you can definitely throw some questions in the comments or whatever. So his name is Mai. I'm going to bring him in, and yeah, welcome.
Hey Pat.
Hey,
Hey
what's
Pat.
up?
Great to be here, buddy.
Likewise, man.
Yeah, so like I said, my name is Mai and I'm a network engineer. We met back in 2020 for the CCIE group that we were trying to do. I'm not a CCIE, I never got it completed, but it is on the list of the certifications I want to achieve. A bunch of other things that happened that led me away from it for now, but hopefully we can get back into it.
Yeah, yeah. So speaking of like certifications on how to become a network engineer,
Mhm.
and you were a young man when you got your first, for example, maybe Network Plus or CCNA or
Mhm.
whatever you started out with. Like, what did you start out with, and what was some tools? I'm brand new. I don't know anything. How would you tell me how to become a network engineer in 2023?
Well, I'm gonna tell you exactly what was told to me, and I was a prime example of what actually worked. So I started off working in construction, and that construction site was for Apple, and we were building server rooms for them and working with their network engineers, building it from the ground up. And there were so many cases where the network would sometimes be down or there's some sort of error in their side of things, and they'd always blame us for things going wrong. And after that happening so many times, I just asked them, "How did you get to where you're at? You guys are getting paid 100 plus thousand dollars a year. Why are you blaming us for the stuff that we're just plugging stuff in for?" And they told me that to get to where they're at, um, don't even go for a college degree, which was kind of interesting because I thought that was more of the thing you do after high school and stuff. But no, they told me they were to go back in time, get certifications or get a degree. And in hindsight, every single one of them told me to get certifications. And the most popular one was CCNA, and that is exactly what I did. It took me shoot 7 months to do. Um, and it's definitely not easy going from knowing absolutely nothing to finally passing it. But that's exactly what I did. I've got the CCNA, and within a month, I got a job offer for working at Cisco actually, but not as a full time employee. I was a contractor. Um, but yeah, I after a month of looking around, I got that job.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So it took you 7 months. Did you pass your CCNA on your first attempt?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. This, I mean, I don't have the book now, but like anyone who's ever taken it before, oh Lord. Well, this was back in 2017, right? Oh shoot. Yeah, I think 2017, where it was, well, now it's a one exam to take and pass, but
Mm-hmm.
now but back then it was two exam. It was a book this big for one test. I mean, this is for CCNA, which is no longer, you can't take this
But
anymore.
that's a data center.
Yeah, but it's exactly the same thing, but it's
Yeah.
this form, two giant books for each exam. And then I took the first test. It was about $300. Um, I failed it miserably because uh, I read the book, didn't touch any configuration, didn't lab anything. I definitely thought I knew it because I would go through the review questions, but failed in the actual test. So recalibrated myself, chatted with the engineers and see like where I'm actually falling short of, and took it again, passed. And then a week later, I took the second test. Again, reading the whole nother book and taking it. Um, but I mean, at the time, it wasn't really financially okay. So while I was waiting to get to afford it, I was reviewing and going on to the next book.
Yeah. That okay. So you got your CCNA in 2018. You
17.
got 17.
Mhm.
Then you were contracted with Cisco. What were you doing with Cisco with a CCNA like at that level? Were you like a TAC one? Were you
Actually,
just
no, it was not a TAC. I didn't even know where that position even existed when I had applied for the job. Um, I had applied for a principal architect or something, and a recruiter reached out to me and saw my resume and said, "Hey, this looks good. Do you want to interview for this spot?" I'm like, "Did you even look at my resume?" So, um, because I guess that's the thing about the recruiters. They see it, but they don't actually know.
yeah.
So I pled my case and said, like, this is what I actually know. Is there a position available for me? And they said, yeah, coincidentally. And it was for an actual entry level for telepresence. And telepresence is the audio video side of things. And I knew nothing about it, but it being entry level, they'll train you from the ground up as long as you had that prerequisite, which was a CCNA. And I got started and good to go.
And that's sick. So,
Hmm.
and this was in around 2018,
This is
right?
still 17.
17. Okay. So then you got your CCNA. You started probably labbing some stuff up
Yep.
after you failed the first time, thinking you can review a book. Now I know this content. Now I can take an exam
Hmm.
because CCNA is not really a lab, so it's pretty much like multiple choice questions.
Hmm.
But so, what did you use to really get back on the grind of things? And now I want to get my CCNA. I failed the first time, so what did you do the second time different?
The second time, I actually invested in buying some hardware, and I mean, eBay had some pretty cheap stuff, but I mean,
Hmm.
it got the work done. And what I had thought would be expensive at like 100 plus, well, at the time to me, 100 plus was expensive. I only
Hmm.
spent like $75 for two Catalyst 2800 switches and one router.
Oh
And
man.
I
Okay.
had a bunch of Ethernet cables I had no idea what to do with. Um, uh, and I connected everything. And all I did, um, the most satisfying thing was seeing pings work. And I have my first videos somewhere where I was pinging from router A to a switch on the VLAN, and it worked somehow. I just copy and pasted the configs, and
Hmm.
I tried doing it, and it didn't work. And yeah, but the first ping that hit was the most satisfying thing ever, and that's what
Yeah.
kept me going. Is when stuff worked, I just kept chasing that.
Yeah. So okay, you kept on chasing that. That's what leads to my next question, right? So after your CCNA, someone entry level gets their CCNA. What's next? So now, like, do you play with maybe like okay, like back then, right? Now it's FTDs for the
Mhm.
firewalls. Maybe you had like an ASA. Maybe you had a, you know, UCS. I think that's for the
Yeah.
Unified Communication Server, whatever. And like, to go for wireless? Like, how did you know what route you wanted to go? Because once you get your CCNA, it's like there's a million
Yeah.
routes, right?
Yeah. So what I ended up doing was CCDA, which is no longer able to test,
Hmm.
Cisco Certified Design Associate. Um, when I had first started, because there was so much information, and through CBT Nuggets is when I found out with all the different versions of CCNA you can go through, and the different tracks you can go to. And
Hmm.
design just kept coming up as something I was interested in because it talked about a bunch of different technologies in one track. So you can kind of like know a little bit of everything without actually being so specialized in it. So I did that, the CCDA, and unlike the other CCNAs, you need to take 2 exams to get the CCNA in this track. CCDA, you need to take 1 more test. So because this is 1 test, I just did that. But this one, most embarrassing, I failed 5 times. Absolutely brutal. I definitely thought I knew everything every single time, but this is where I definitely learned, don't use 1 or 2 resources, use a bunch. And
Hmm.
yeah, that hurt on the wallet, but it was worth it. Well worth it.
Cool. So now you have your CCDA, and that's what I was going to ask you. Like, what study resources did you use besides, So you said CBT Nuggets. So now you said you failed 5 times. So other than CBT Nuggets, probably with Jeremy Charos or
Yeah.
Keith Barker at that time.
Yep.
Who else did you use? What else did you use to accomplish it on the Cisco?
Yeah, so like besides CBT Nuggets with Jeremy Char and Keith Barker, and I bought the official book from
Hmm.
Anthony Bruno, I think his name was.
Okay.
It was, again, just as big and brutal. And then every single time I had failed, I reviewed what I did wrong,
Hmm.
and I would purchase a completely new Cisco Press book on just that topic. Well, not just the topic, but it covered that topic. And then even then for the CCDP, which is the professional side of things, I bought that book and read it over and try to really grasp the concepts. And because it was like the next level, it kind of got deeper into the technology that I needed to know. So when
Hmm.
I took the exam the 6th time, it would be not as in depth, so it would be kind of easy, quote unquote.
Hmm.
So that's what I had to do.
All right.
To
So
the
for
next
for
level.
video training, you only use CBT Nuggets for videos.
Yes, yes, yes.
Cool. All right. So we keep going down this, because it's interesting because people probably like, okay, like where do I go? I get my CCNA. Obviously, CCDA doesn't exist anymore.
Mhm.
So are you now you got your CCNA, CCDA. Is that all the certs you had at that time, or did you take any like CompTIA, maybe Network Plus or
I
anything like
didn't
that?
I didn't do any CompTIA because I mean it was like I said with the Apple engineers, they told me to really go for vendor specific.
Fair enough.
Don't go for industry standard. And when I took their advice, but as I did my own research to really like assess what I wanted to do, a lot of things had come up saying that like CompTIA was a um it wasn't as how do I say it? It's not as useful or wasn't recommended, and you really had to do the industry standard, or not industry standard, the industry specific, so
Yeah.
Cisco or Juniper or anything else.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I had no interest, and currently still have no interest in doing CompTIA at all.
Yeah. So the reason why I ask, and it's funny because everyone has their own opinion, right?
Hmm.
Obviously, I have a few Cisco certifications under my belt, Juniper, and I believe having my Network Plus, it did close some gaps,
Okay.
right? So, say for example, you're a CCNA, even a CCDA. If I put you in an IDF or an MDF, and I say, hey, let's patch this down to 586B, 586A, white, orange, white, green, blue, white, green, brown, white,
Yeah.
brown, right? You don't learn that in CCNA. You
No.
don't learn, so if I'm like, oh man, like we're doing this with cable testing, all this stuff, and it's like, man, I don't know, it's giving me error or whatever. Like there's
Yeah.
nothing coming through the Ethernet. It's like, but you're a CCIE and you don't even know how to do that,
Yeah.
right? So and I have a couple of friends that on that level, and I did jobs with them in the past, and
Mhm.
cable runs, and I'm like, hey man, just pretty much color code it, and I'd say 586B, and then the other one does 586A, and it's like crossover cables, and it's like this doesn't talk to this. So that's why I think like having some of those like Network Plus, for an example,
Mhm.
give you those gaps that you don't learn in like Juniper or Palo Alto or
Yeah.
Cisco or Checkpoint or whatever else, whatever fairy Mary certification you want to go for. So, and I have that conversation with folks even till today, like, with the A plus, everyone's like, oh, the A plus is useless. But it's like, if you, are a help desk, you're starting out at that level, understanding those basic fundamentals is super key because, like,
Layer one.
yeah, like, oh, USB printers connecting to a print server and TCP ports and INI files that you have to upload to for your drivers and all this. Like, if you don't really know the ins and outs of those basic things that Windows or Mac or Linux, whatever, if you don't know
Mhm.
how to do LSUSB in Linux or basic stuff in Linux, like, how are you going to get your devices to work?
Well, what's
But
interesting about that, like I'm in WGU right now to get my degree after all these
mhm,
years. And I'm having to go through these classes and take these certification tests that what I had skipped. But yeah, you're
mhm,
right. There are some things that I had the fundamentals that I had missed that now the dots are connecting why everything worked the way it works, and
mhm,
I'm seeing it firsthand, also physically. Because when I
mhm,
was at Brightcom, I was running the cable and building the fiber connections as well as building the RJ45s and rack and stacking, but I didn't know what I was doing. I was just doing as I was told. Come to
exactly,
find out, I
exactly,
was like working with these Nexus switches and putting up muxes and patch paneling and all these different things. I had no idea, but all the pieces came together just as of recently when I just got my A plus several months ago, and I was like,
nice.
oh my god, this is what I was doing for a whole year, and this is
Mhm.
5 years later.
Yeah. So, okay, so we'll get to your degree and what you're up to now. So let's keep on going on the my journey, right?
Uh,
So you get your CCNA, CCDA. Um, you know, what's next?
Yeah,
What's
so when I was at Cisco as a contractor, the next step would be I was a tier one, and it goes up to tier 1.52, and tier three are the Cisco full-time engineers. Um, actually working for Cisco, not as a contractor. So doing your time, you can get to tier three after 5 or maybe 10, 15 years. But also it takes account of like seniority of how many years other people have been there for. I didn't want to play that game, so I just decided to study on my own, more certifications, especially through Cisco, because I'm at Cisco. So I did the naturally the next step would be the CCNP in routing and switching, and I took the switch test instead of the route test first, because of several of my um, coworkers at the time were all doing route, and I wanted to be different, and I took switch. Um, Not really a good idea, I guess, because I failed it twice, and I couldn't go to anyone else to ask for help. So for the third time, I finally passed, and then after I passed, um, I felt really, really confident, seeing like, hey, what can I do with this? So I started sending out applications everywhere, and I got an application or I got a interview for where I currently work at is Spectrum Enterprise or Charter Communications, same umbrella. And I got an interview with them, and they really, really liked that I had my CCNA, route switch, CCDA, and I'm going for a CCNP. So they liked it, and I actually got the job. Not on the spot, but like the next day, I got the job offer. So yeah, when I was even at Spectrum, I got the job at the Knock, doing a very difficult shift, a
I've
weekend
never
and
heard of
nights, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and my first week there was their first time implementing 13-hour, 14-hour, 14-hour for a full 40-hour week, and that was absolutely brutal. But I did the time. I took advantage of some free time on the job as well as the free time outside of work, and continually studying and trying to get out of the schedule, out of this environment of the knock. And I got my CCNP in routing switching in it took about a year to do. Um, but after that, I again put in more applications, and well, I didn't get anywhere for a little bit. But I looked around internally, and I got into where I am now in design. Fast forwarding a couple of years.
Nice. So So okay, so what certifications do you hold today? Like,
Oh,
I think I know, but like,
I man, so it's a lot to keep track of. Um, so I have just as of last year, 2 years ago. Oh my God, it's so much. I have for Cisco, I have the CCNP and data center service provider, uh, the legacy Cisco certified design professional, um, a CCNP and enterprise for Juniper networks. I have the JNC IP and data center, enterprise route switch. I have a couple MEF certifications, which for service provider side of things,
mhm,
and the CompTIA, I have the A plus.
nice.
Not
Okay.
naming the associates and specialists
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
to the professional.
yeah, yeah. No, fair enough.
Lot.
And so you have like four CCMPs, you have CCDP, you have some Juniper, you have A plus. So
Mm.
how long did all that take you? 5 years?
Um,
Oh, longer than that. 2017, 6 years?
at 17 to 20, yeah, 6 years. It was a big goal of mine to try to get a certification every single year, and also
Mm,
being through my work. It's an incredibly generous incentive program to chase after these certifications for monetary values. So,
mhm.
I mean, it was a no-brainer for me because I really wanted to make that goal for myself. But also, I mean, the money's great, so you
Yeah.
kind
No,
of went
exactly.
through that.
So obviously the next step, like for the viewers of people that want to know, the next step was the CCIE. And that's when we came into play, right?
Yes.
This is when you and I met. Um, I was do like CCIE security, but then I would jump in with the enterprise back then, or route switch just before it actually went into
Mhm.
the enterprise. And why did you stop? Like what? Obviously, like why were you like okay,
Take a step
like
back.
yeah, take a
Yeah,
step
so
back.
along the way, as I was going after these certifications, so I had just gotten the CCNP in service provider. I did that one because I work for a service provider, and it was only natural for me to learn what we were actually doing on the network side of house. And I mean that was a gauntlet of its own at the time. It's 6 exams, and very proud I passed all but one on my first attempt. 'Cause I had learned my lesson of wasting all that money and time and stuff. But along the way, when after I passed that test, um, I wanted to get my CCA at first because I had read that the service provider track as well as the route switch track, they're kind of the same. And if you're getting those two, it would kind of lead you into the way of the CCIE, either in a route switch or service provider. But along the way, as I was studying, um, well, in our study group,
Mhm.
our fellow friend of ours, Kenny,
Kenny from the
um,
block.
he wanted to do something wild and do a data center, and I had a little inkling of an interest of it because I had no idea what it was. And the one thing that I really found intriguing was how servers work and how they're actually integrated into the network. And they're not even
Whoop, whoop, hold up.
what happened here. There
Yeah,
we
go
go.
ahead. I don't know what
Yeah.
happened.
So so I want to figure out.
What the hell's going on?
Was it me?
I don't know. Yeah, you're there, but I'm not sure what happened.
All right. So I wanted to figure out how these servers work and also the introduction of automation, what the cloud actually was, and
Mhm.
storage. So he convinced me to do something completely new, and I did. Um, this completely new thing, I found it really interesting. So I went all in, and I passed the new exam now, the data center core exam, and then one more exam to get the professional. So I did design. I got that done. I want to get the CCA again, but and we'll talk about it later. But
Yeah,
it's no longer it's in sight, but I have to do a couple things first.
and that's cool. So okay, so now that all those dots connect, and now we're in 2023. So what is it that you're doing today? Like you got it a knock. So like, what is like your
Yeah.
day to day stuff as a network engineer in 2023? Are you like doing MPLS stuff? Are you doing BGP? Are you messing with?
So no, I don't do any of that kind of stuff. So I work in network design right now. And we don't do any sort of the actual like network stuff in the configuration side of house. Um, but we do the designs of like at the network edge, going from the customer prem to the edge and then into the MPLS cloud, to the
Okay.
rest of the network and stuff. But yeah, when I had first started to become, when I first became a engineer is when I realized that like in the real world, I mean, it's a lot different from what you read in the book and what
Hmm.
the real world actually is, and also depending on how the company branches off in the different engineering departments.
Hmm.
'Cause when I first became an engineer, it was in 2020, and I did circuit design, which is designing. What I learned is MPLS layer 2 VPNs, which in MEF terms is the EPL, Ethernet Private Lines, the point to points, and then
Hmm.
even VPLS, so the ELANs in MEF terms. And we designed those primarily, and that was our job day in, day out. And then doing network design, what I do now, we design the network edge at our hub sites. But yeah, we still don't do any sort of configurations at all. We have a whole separate team that does the implementation and all the documentation of migrating from the current into the new. But
Mm.
we decide the designs for that. And even then, we do the low level designs and we get the high level from a whole separate department, which are the planning engineers. They give the stuff to us.
Cool. Sounds good. So I guess the next question, then we can just shift gears. So like, what is your goal? Like, what is your ultimate goal? Is it continue down this road, transition to like management, transit? Like, what are your what are your ultimate goals in?
Wow, it's actually a question that my manager asked for my yearly review of what I wanted to do. Um, I want to stay away from the whole management side of the house. I like to stay at the technical side of things.
The
Um,
trenches?
yeah, because I just the people management side is that my kind of deal. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah,
Fair
like
enough.
I completely want to stay technical, and we have our principal engineers that I mean I don't know exactly what they do, but they determine everything that's going on, and they know everything about everything, and hopefully it can be that way. I'm
Yeah,
learning.
and you're on the road to success, right? You're
Yeah.
young, you know, you're still young. Knowing you for 3 years or so now, from where you were when we met to now, it's a massive difference, right? So before we actually, I guess this is shifting gears. That's all about the certifications, and thank you so much for sharing that. And hopefully, it's like I'm assuming that's wifey. It's inspirational,
Yeah. Oh my
So
gosh.
and it is super. It is like if someone is your age, you're less than 30 years old, you're younger than 30, and you're killing it, right? So we talk about all the certifications, but what did you we said that you had two switches, one router,
Mhm.
but that's gonna get you only so far, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe at the CCNA, maybe some of the CCNP level stuff with your three devices. So all the other stuff, or like not even certifications, have you used any like I know, but like for like EVE-NG,
Oh
GNS3,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
all that world, and what would you recommend? And yeah, like talk about real hands-on, like your labs. Like
So
what can I
um,
do to learn
I
labbing?
monetary constraints are was what really led me to virtualizing everything. And even then, I was so incredibly frustrated working with GNS3 and even G similar because I didn't know how to work with that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I didn't want
I
to do
remember.
Google search was absolutely brutal. Maybe it could be user error. I didn't know how to search the right things. But I had found through Cisco, um, they had invested in the Cisco DevNet cloud, which is
Oh yeah, yeah.
100% free. And within that cloud, they had Viral, which virtual internet routing lab is what they called it. And back then, it is now called CML, Cisco Mobile
CML.
Labs.
Yeah.
But they had it completely free versus buying a license every single year. So I took advantage of that, built my own labs, and I had invested in INE. They had labs as well that I just kind of copied over. And through their labs that I copied, I did everything hands on through that. I didn't have to buy a server at all. I didn't have to buy additional equipment because I mean, two switches and routers is nowhere near enough for CCNP for what you have to do. But I tinkered with all that kind of stuff and built a massive lab. I broke it a bunch of times trying to follow the steps, and it works. The most satisfying thing is when things don't go according to plan, and when a ping finally reaches it, and trace routes go the way it's supposed to. It is so satisfying.
No, absolutely. That's definitely rewarding. I remember all those days, and even like what recently I did some checkpoint stuff like on my channel, and like I'm like, you know what? Like I'm just gonna wing it, right? Like I'm just gonna hit record, and like we're doing this together, right? Like I'm not gonna try it first, see if it works, and then like work out the kinks, and then you know, like I
It's
was
not as
just
authentic.
going one by one, and yeah, there's some other stuff that I want to do, like VPNs and VPN connections, and like connect to some other stuff. But obviously, like I transitioned more to like stuff like this, like going live once a week, get
Mhm.
other people exposed out there, and just like collaborating with folks. And it's
Mhm.
always good to do the technical stuff, but sometimes, at least for me, it's fun, you know, but sometimes like coming up with new ideas, it's like let's shift. Let me take a break and decompress from that,
Yeah.
and then like network with folks and just hear people's journeys, right? Like 'cause everyone has a journey. And I remember when we first started, doing our CCIE, and I remember like Keith Barker, right? Like he's like, I want to hear your journey. I was like, whoa, all right. My journey is very unique. You know what I mean? I my thing was very unique. And so after he did that, I'm like, man, I would like to do something like that. Like bring people on and just like
Mhm.
shoot the stuff and just get to know people's journey. It's on a, not nothing personal, just more like, okay, like how did you get here? Because maybe this person has a, maybe it's mental, maybe it's a roadblock, maybe it's like you were saying 6 years ago, maybe $100 was a lot of money. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I have to eat ramen noodles this week to get this switch exam, right? I'd rather,
Oh, man,
but I know in a
that
few
was brutal.
years, I'm going to be owning ramen noodles. You know what I mean? So sometimes you just have to take that sacrifice. And I think people don't really realize that. They just look like in the now. It's like, oh, I don't have money, so I can't do it. Instead of saying, okay, I want to make a way to get this money, whatever the
Yeah,
case may
that
be, and I
that
know it's going to
going
be
off of
invested in
that, like, I
myself.
wanna make sure that people know that, like, you really gotta make time for this study time. It's not enough to just play this, seniority route of waiting to get promoted or doing something, within the job to get recognized. You have to do stuff extracurricular to, really make a stand out of yourself. 'Cause I really didn't like this excuse of this whole seniority thing of getting promoted, even if your performance is pretty good, um, the seniority is just not. I mean, people who've been there for 5 years might. I mean, they will get an extra look because you're there for 5 years for someone who's been there for a year or two. But because I really truly believe that because of the certifications that I was constantly getting, it got the double take of either recruiters or management to see like, hey, he's doing additional stuff outside of doing your job and doing
Hmm.
your job well. I mean, it's great, but doing more is always good. And And as intimidating as it is, like getting these books or doing the labs and getting to a brand new topic you have no idea, 10 minutes a day goes a long way. And for me, it's just doing the labs was what I really chased, is when something worked, and even more so when it didn't work, and then I figured it out, and I
Hmm.
chased after that every single time, and then even more so passing a test after all that hard work is I chased it every single time.
Cool. So now we'll get into like your degree, right? So 6 years ago, Apple folks were like, "Yo, don't get your degree. It's just go search, search, search all day."
Hmm.
Um, Now you're doing your degree. I went to WGU. I know a couple of folks are trying to get into WGU. So it's not even about WG, it's about college, right? So
Yes.
there's two parts to this question. Do
Hmm.
you wish you could have done this sooner with what you know today? And would you recommend college to someone else now that you know what it's about?
Oh, that's a good question. Ah, that's a good one. So the reason why I'm going for a degree now, because through my career path and the way I rose up from construction over to engineer now, I did it through certifications and at least through working internally with the company, I risen up. And I
Hmm.
didn't need a degree to pass it, 'cause the on-the-job knowledge for internal networks, our internal network was enough to get me moving along.
Hmm.
But I had found out, last year when I was kinda like job, um, hunting, every single time, despite the amount of certification that I had or have, this degree was that check mark that I did not get. And, in hindsight, I wish I kinda started sooner, because now I have my, son who's taking a lot
Hmm.
of the time away. Um,
Hmm.
but, even then, I didn't fully take advantage of my work benefits that they do cover a great amount of tuition, if you get a degree, through their approved list of schools, and WGU was, um, incredibly popular in at my work, as well as being, everywhere else that they, accepted it. So, in hindsight, I wish I started sooner. But for my personal career path, it wasn't necessary.
Gotcha. So you're doing it to further, you know, we're not saying you're leaving where you're at, but like in
Yeah.
the future, wherever life takes you, you
Mhm.
have that check mark versus like, oh, I had 6,000 certifications, but I don't have that, that check mark.
Mhm. Yep, yep.
And what is your degree in? What are you studying?
I was doing cybersecurity, but then like along the way, man, I school was just not is just not for me, because it's on their schedule of getting things done, not on my own terms.
Hmm.
So because it is actually completely new to me, I switched my degree into now networking, um, which is easier, but I'm still learning some new stuff, but it's not as like completely new. And it was a good choice, because I certainly don't have time to completely invest in brand new everything on top of trying to my newborn, and then do my day-to-day work,
Hmm.
and even then, still trying to make my personal goal of getting a certification every single year. So learning new stuff, certs, degree, my work, and then my son, a lot. So
Yeah, no,
try to manage it
absolutely.
properly.
Yeah. So yeah, because I remember you reaching out asking about some stuff about cyber. I was like, oh man, like he's interested in this
I
role
was
now.
I was in it, but then it got too much at one time,
Yeah.
and I need to step down my ego a little bit
No,
and
it,
live
it,
in.
it, it is a lot, like, especially like, okay, you're a network engineer. It's like, okay, but the good thing is like, because cyber is so broad, right? And the degree, I have my MS degree from WGU, from my, master's in cybersecurity and assurance. And when you're really doing whatever, if you're defensive or you're pen testing or whatever, it's totally different than learning what you're learning in your degree,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, now you get this cybersecurity degree, but you're still going to be doing networking. it defeats what you're doing, because at least you can feed off of your cybersecurity degree and say, okay, I want to go for an OSCP or PMPT or EJPT, because you were talking about INE,
Mhm.
or EPPT, whatever,
Yeah.
all these acronyms,
Yeah.
like, so that's cool. So we're talking about the labs. You use CML, you use viral, all
Mhm.
that good stuff. So if anyone wants to, obviously those, I think now CMS you have to pay, like, was it like $200 a year if I remember, to get, like,
I think CML, yeah, is 200.
yeah.
That's a
So
lot.
if you guys are, broke as a joke and you have no money, obviously there is Packet Tracer, to get some understanding. Obviously it's an emulator, it's not simulating real iOSs.
Mhm.
Or if you have a beefy computer, you can get, EVNG Community Edition. You could probably talk on that because I'm not a network engineer anymore. So
Yeah,
if
I had
there's,
even G, and I have a server. It's a Dell R610 Edge thing.
Mhm.
And it has hyper VMware. What is it called? vSphere.
ESX,
That one.
ESXi,
That one.
vSphere.
And it has even G on it. And it works fantastic. But it's just really, really loud. I didn't want to power it up every single time to do a lab, and it takes a little while to boot up. Um, and also if something breaks, I don't know what I'm doing with it. So I again, luckily Cisco has
Honesty is the
it's
best policy.
100%.
That's awesome. It's like, oh,
Cisco has it completely free on their DevNet site.
yeah.
It's Cisco DevNet Sandbox, and they have a bunch of virtualized stuff that you can mess with. I mean, it's for development, but they have a isolated sandbox just for networking,
Yeah, I
specifically
remember that.
EML. And again, it works absolutely fantastic. It has all the iOS images there. I mean, it's from Cisco, so
Yeah.
it does the switching, the routing, Nexus, NX OS for data
Mhm.
center, uh, iOS XR for service provider side of things, as well as they have a virtualized for those doing for CCDA Enterprise, has a DNA center there as well,
Mm.
among a bunch of other stuff, which I don't even know what's going on because I don't deal with that
Yeah,
shit.
it changes rapidly. So it's
Oh
like,
yeah.
so that's all for the Cisco stuff. But I want to get into Juniper because you have some
Mhm.
Juniper stuff, and I want to be like you. So now, what did you do for Juniper? Like,
Juniper has the same exact thing. It has their own cloud environment. Instead of calling it's DevNet Sandbox, it's VLabs, which also virtualizes their switches and routers and firewalls. And what I really like about Juniper is the reason why well, I can't really say proprietary stuff. Juniper, they have their iOS is the same for everything. So Cisco has iOS for the CLI, then NXOS, XR, and firewall. But Juniper is exactly the same commands for all the platforms, and it's incredibly easy to
it's
switch
all like
between
in
different devices.
JSON, right? It's all like JSON.
Sure, that's what
No,
it's
I'm
called.
saying it's all JSON, right?
I don't know what it's called. I don't remember, to be
The
honest with you. I mean, yeah, I just play with the configs. I don't remember.
I think
I
it's
did the JNCIP DC last year, and I don't work with that kind of stuff as much. So in it goes out,
yeah.
and again, I don't play with configs on the day to day.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's incredibly easy to learn between the different iOS devices. And even then, doing the commands, it's easy to read of how the different policies and stuff connect and apply to everything. And Juniper is very, very policy based, so nothing is not as implied like Cisco devices when you configure stuff.
Hmm. Interesting. All right. So what do we have? Like 15 minutes. We'll stop at the top of the hour. I don't know if there's any questions. I don't even know how many people are watching. I have no idea. I don't know where I can see that. But if there's any questions for Mayo myself about networking, I can try my best. I know a little bit about networking, um, so we can go from there. But do you have anything else on your mind that you want to speak about, talk about?
Um, Not on top of my head, no. It just life is just incredibly busy right now. I mean, I really wish I can go back to doing the CCIE, but I mean, just gotta be realistic with my goals, and settle down my ego with what I'm trying to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
Because then I'm young compared to the people I work with.
Mm-hmm.
28.
Oh, thank you, Pooh.
Oh,
All
that's
right,
my mom.
sounds. That's your mom.
Happy birthday.
You got the whole fam joining.
Oh my gosh.
That's awesome.
Uh,
That's cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I think this has been, good. Obviously, I don't want to take too much of your time. If there's no questions in the chat, I really appreciate your time. Happy birthday. Yeah. There you go.
uh,
Uh, that's awesome. So, yeah, if there's no last questions, if there's any questions, if after you guys watch this, for myself. So I guess my last thing, I think I forgot to do this with uh, Devin, last one. How can people find you if they want to connect with you on whatever social media? I don't know what you have and what you. I know what you have, but I don't know what you want to give
yeah,
out.
I mean, I'm not on a bunch of social platforms, but I mean, Facebook, my Nuannim, as well as LinkedIn, my Nuannim, and I mean, I do have a blog post on LinkedIn for how I got my CCNP and service provider, and that again, that was one hell of a trip. I mean, 6 exams is brutal just to get one certification. I say 6 because it's CCNA service provider 2 exams and CCNP service provider is 4 exams, which currently now it's just 2 exams.
Yes.
I mean,
So Shelby, I appreciate the fact that you admit to that you failed and eventually passed. I get that myself if I don't completely understand some concepts right away. Thank you. Yeah, I
yeah.
I still struggle with that. You know what I mean? And one thing that I struggle with is web application pen testing or web application stuff because I come from all this back. Like, this is the language I speak, right? I can speak routing, switching, firewall systems, this, that. When you get into some code and some this and post requests and burp suite and all this stuff, like I can I can do it now because I've been forced to do it, but it's not my favorite, right?
Mhm.
So it's like if I can shy away from it, I will shy away from it. Like if I don't have
Yeah,
to deal with a web app, if you want to deal with web app, if you're a good web app guy, take that thing. Take that engagement. I don't want it. Right.
yeah,
I'd rather do something that, an external, okay, we can get your external stuff and, attack that. And I understand the whole networking aspect. And okay, we can compromise your firewall, this, that, and the other, and work your way in and you compromise maybe an external Okta page or whatever, trying to like get out on the internet. And yeah,
yeah. There's a whole different language to me.
yeah. So it's like it's super super cool to to talk about that world, and everyone has their niche, right? And that's something that's I want to wrap up saying like anything that one thing I always say is never compare yourself, right? And that was probably hard for when I met you, right? Like maybe no one really ever said this in a group. There was like 6 of us, I
Mhm.
think 6 of us, if no one knows. And we had someone in the group at that time who's like 16 years old, has a CCNP,
Yeah,
right? Michael. And it's like maybe, not, I didn't, I wasn't like, but there's probably someone, oh man, this kid's 15, 16 years old and he's going for a CCIE. I think he couldn't even take it yet until he turned
it wasn't old
17.
enough.
He wasn't even old enough to take the CCIE. So it's like, don't be like, oh man, I'm never going to be that person. Just stay in your own lane. And I probably sound like a broken record, just like other people, like in this world, right? There's John Hammett, right? The kid's John, if you ever watch his shit, you're a fucking genius, right? The kid is a genius. The kid is on a different level. Like, but his kid is super humble, right? He's at least on the interwebs, he's super humble. I don't know him from a hole in the wall outside of a camera, but he's a super. You can get a vibe. He's pretty chill, and it's like he just stays in his own lane. Maybe there's something that maybe our world he'll get lost, right? We can talk about like you just talking about, and he may be lost, right?
Yeah,
So everyone just has their own niche, and just stay in your lane and just focus. Never compare yourself to the next person. the first person in front of you and back of you and side of you. It's like just stay in your own lane. I think
Yeah, at
that's
least with Mike, I mean, he found his thing that he was interested in at a young age. I mean, for I guess most of us, I mean, it takes a while for you to find your career path. Me when I got into construction, I mean, I had zero intention of doing IT at all. But I was kind of like conditioned in high school that like as an Asian kid, IT was natural, and I really wanted to get away from that stereotype. But it
mhm.
kind of led me the way to my career. And I had zero intention of being where I'm at, and I luckily chased after it, and I found a true passion for it. I mean, even for when I was studying, I wanted to get into cybersecurity when I first studied, and but design kind of was more interesting because it touched everything. And then even then, when I finally got design, it was not what I expected not what I expected it to be, but I still love my job day in, day out. I have zero complaints of what I do for with the company, and they treat me very, very well. So yeah, it's not the typical network engineering as like what certification will teach you. But I mean, the job is fantastic.
Yeah, and that's what matters, right? Your happiness is what matters, and that's boils down to like if you enjoy it, if that's something that you love, and you wake up every day with a purpose, that's all that matters, right? And if you wake up like, man, I have to go downstairs and fucking boot my computer up, and oh man, here we go again, like YOLO, right? Like, why do that if you're going to be miserable? And people just chase money, people chase whatever. Like, it's like I'd rather be happy than chase a buck, right?
Yeah.
Because everything, if this is probably going to get on the soapbox, but like we come into this world with nothing, right? We come into this world with nothing. If we have $1, we're up. It's a profit, right? So people don't see that. Like, and when we're dead, that's it. We're going to casket or whatever, and we can't bring everything. So it's like just enjoy what you got and just don't take anything for granted. But
Yeah, man.
I guess that's my last words.
I'm I, I I don't like it when people are comfortable where they're at. I hope that they can strive to be to do more. But I mean, I became a hypocrite for that because I mean, I'm very comfortable of where my job is at, and I'm scared to kind of explore everywhere around. But I'm still trying to hit those check marks to see. I mean, the job market changes, so
Hmm.
applications go out every now and then. But I mean, to this day, nope, I don't have that check mark. But I mean, who knows? It's see where it leads to. But I mean, I'm it's gonna take a lot for me to leave where I'm currently at.
Hmm. No, and that's good. You're content. It's not that you have to look for what's greener on the other side, right? The grass is not always greener. You can move up. Obviously you don't want to be in management, but maybe you can move different departments. Spectrum is huge, right? Like
Yeah,
it's a pretty decent company to it's an ISP, so you can if you want to go back on the keyboard be an operator, I'm sure you can, right?
yeah.
But yeah, sounds good. So there's not really many questions, probably because a lot of folks probably that watch my videos are more on the cyber side. Like, I don't even understand what you guys are talking about. But yeah, I really appreciate it, and it was good catching up. I know we were, it's been a few years that we actually
Yeah.
chatted, and hopefully we can get back on our WhatsApp group and shoot the stuff and get Kenny from the block and the gang going again. Maybe we can all jump on, right? We can all just jump on and do like a
Yeah, we
nerd
gotta
chat.
get it back together because Mike has moved his way up through Apple, and then I don't know what exactly Kenny is doing, and yeah, a lot has changed just in the past years in our career. So
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, we'll definitely get that going. I would love to have Mike on. So, Mike, if you ever watch this, maybe I'll be hitting you up to come on in the near future. But I really appreciate your time. Good luck with the little one, with the wife. Happy birthday, Ma, and take care. And until next time, folks, have a good one.